Hi, welcome to Well Read, a program about a little bit of this and a little bit of that at your Ames Public Library. I'm Jerri Hyde, Youth Services Manager at that library, and I'm here today to talk about books, books, books. Sometimes we talk about books, sometimes we talk about the programs that we have, but either way, that's what libraries are all about, our programming, our books that are on the shelves. This morning, we're going to talk about giving away books, not just checking them out. Giving them away because that's the greatest gift that you can give, is a book for someone's hands, the right book at the right time for the right person. And with me today, I have Danielle, who you've seen before. And she's usually my go-to person for our gift book program, and today is no different. So, Miss Danielle, I know our readers and our readers here in the library know who you are, and our viewers see you once a year, twice a year maybe. So could you tell us a little bit about what's been going on in your life and how long you've been here at the library?
Well, I've been here, it was 7 years in August, I think. Yeah, crazy. Let's see, since you saw me this time last year, I was expecting a baby. Now I've had one.
That's good, because that's been a whole year.
Yeah, still cooking her. So now I have she'll be 5 months tomorrow, and I have a 3.5-year-old. So it's really fun for me this year to read a lot of the picture books and the board books, and so that's what I'm reading most of right now in my life.
And they're really soaking that all in.
They
and
are.
When they're soaking it all in at this age, that when you roll ahead, we won't make it go real fast for you and your children. But, let's pretend that they're in high school now, and you are someone that wants to give a present to one of the children or one of the teens. Which book would you give them?
Well, I would start with this one called Booked.
Booked.
Yep, it's by Kwame Alexander, and Kwame is actually a poet. And his last book won the Newbery, and this one is really good as well. It's sports themed, but one thing I have noticed over the years is that there are sports books and there are sports books. So yes, soccer is a huge part of this book, but that's not all there is. It's about friendships, it's about growing up, it's about family. It's really, really good, and it's a good one for maybe that kid who likes to read, but not as much because it is the poetry. So there's a lot of white space on the page. But
and this was just like his his previous book that won the Newbery. So he's known for reading, writing, and working with verse. But it is kind of good, really good for that struggling reader too, because there is that white space, and it kind of flows very fast.
Yep.
In addition to the topic is always a good motivator for reading too. His previous one was all about basketball.
Yeah.
And I know that the verse had the rhythm of the basketball bouncing and stuff. Now in this one, does it have the kicking rhythm?
I am not maybe the person to ask. My kicking never follows a rhythm. But yeah, I bet you could find something. I bet he's thought about that. And then the other thing I want people to know is, again, it's in verse, but it actually doesn't rhyme. So or it does, but it's not it's not forced.
Like Dr. Seuss type
Right,
of
it's not like a Dr. Seuss rhyme, but it's really good. I really suggest it, boys, girls.
What age group do you think?
Let's see, I would say this one's kind of one of my younger picks, so 6th grade and up.
And I didn't really meet him, but he was at a conference that I was at, and he spoke, his Newbery Award-winning speech for the crossover, and he was quite the caring and passionate person. So, and I believe, in my opinion, that it comes out in his writing as well. Yeah. So a good pick.
Definitely.
Here we go. So what's next?
So then I want to go kind of more towards those fantasy kids.
This is black, so it must be mysterious.
Very. So this is 6 of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. And if you're familiar with the movie Ocean's 11, the heist and the group of all these criminals getting together to make that one big take, So this is a group of teenagers getting together, but not only that, it's magic. This is in a land full of magic, and so there's not really a lot of great people in this one. So it's a little. Not only does it have the black dark cover, it's kind of a darker book.
And what I liked is not only is the cover black, but they've really done that on purpose, I would assume.
Yeah,
and
they did something again.
I understand that the previous book had red.
The second one.
The second one. The next book has the red on it. So very thoughtful in the PR, or on how to market the book.
So
and is the book just as good as what the marketing and the cover looks like?
I read it and I loved it. I had to give it a little hug when I was done reading it.
And recommended ages?
I would say probably 8th or 9th grade and up. Maybe even, take a look, because it is dark. There's going to be people die. One of the main characters does not care if he kills people.
Oh, so there is murder.
Yep, there's murder. There's
death.
And I don't think it happens in the book, but it's alluded to in the past.
So kind of a cautious tale.
Yeah, but if you get a kid who likes that.
Yeah, and in a page turner then.
Yes, definitely.
All right. So 6 of Crows. What's next on your list for our older kids?
I want to talk about going to graphic novels.
Ooh, and can you tell us a little bit about graphic novels?
So
what
they are is books and novels told through words and pictures.
So some people call them comic books. Are they comic books?
Well, under the very loosest definition, they're comic books.
Yeah,
but even comic books these days have a lot of, some of them have a lot of things they're exploring, like issues, but I would say they're not really comic books because a lot of times they don't have the superheroes. They tell more of the intense stories, the true stories.
Again, attracting our readers that are more visual, and the storyline is still very intense.
Yep.
And even with picture books or with graphic novels, that picture helps tell the story along and helps the reader figure out what those words are and kind of gives them comfort in what they're doing and what they're reading and what the characters are doing. And there are lots of what they call rare words in graphic novels and in comic books. So sometimes people think that comic books are just for fun and just little kiddish, and where they're really not, because they challenge our readers as well with those rare words and exposes them to that type of thing. But in this one, I found this to be a really great book. I read this and reread this, and it was on our best books. So why did you choose it for a gift book this year?
Well, a really, really, really popular graphic novelist right now is Raina Telgemeier. And this is a very good read-alike. So if you have a kid who's maybe read Smile or Sisters or Drama, or actually just almost any kid in like the 6th, 7th, or 8th grade has probably read a Raina Telgemeier.
We can't keep it on the shelf, I know here.
Yeah.
So
this one is just as good, but it takes that true life girl dealing with growing up and dealing with figuring out who she is that we see in Raina Telgemeier books.
And figuring out with her friends what she wants to be when she grows up, or what she wants to try out and trying new things, and the relationships with mom and everyone around them.
And this one actually is really cool because it talks about roller derby. So as you can see on the cover there, she's got her roller skates on and her helmet, and she is ready. She is ready to go and to learn something. And roller derby is really making a little bit of a comeback here.
Yes.
I know Ames has a team.
And Des Moines has a team. And this one is this particular author's debut, novel debut. But it also, the two main characters are the two characters that roller derby girl, Jameson. That's the author. She also has a friend that's interested in ballet.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where
they're
we're
kinda
at in our
different
life, trying to
there.
decide ballet or roller derby.
Yeah.
And you have to read the story in order to find out those things. So moving on, let's go ahead and we have to talk about the Harry Potter one.
Yes.
Just because it's,
Yeah.
J.K. Rowling. Tell us a little bit about this one.
So it's actually a play. So, and the main character, I actually haven't read it yet, but from what I've heard, the main character is not Harry. It is his son. So it's taking place a few years in the future, and it's a play. And from what I've heard, it's a very enjoyable story. I've talked with several librarians who've read it and really...
I've heard the same thing. When you have a play, you go about reading that. So
In a different
you J.K.
way.
Rowling novel fans or Harry Potter fans, be prepared that you have to use your brain and your imagination in a whole different way. Being a theater background or person, when you read a play, you have to kind of picture all those people running around in their costumes and what the set looks like. It's not all given to you in the description or in the paragraph form. You have to kind of fill in those pieces. So I've heard a lot of talk about that. It's not a J.K. Rowling. It's not Harry Potter. So a little bit in the future of Harry Potter, but a good story.
Yeah, I've heard a
everybody's
great
had
story.
positive.
And the other thing I was thinking about is kids are going to have to learn to read. A lot of them are going to read plays in English.
It's a very good experience,
Yeah.
believe me. Not that I'm biased or anything.
So not to kind of get them used to it before they're being tested on it.
I think it might be a good read aloud too, among
yeah.
family members, so you can take the characters on and have a little bit of fun. And with the holidays coming up, you have lots of people around. You could assign characters and have a great family gathering.
Yeah.
So let's move to this kind of is a transitional stage for both the high school and in middle school. Let's move to our younger group in the elementary and upper elementary. What kind of books would you suggest for them?
Well, I actually grabbed one of my old favorites.
Yeah, a classic.
Yes. So this is The Dark is Rising, and it is a fantasy book for probably our 4th, 5th, 6th graders in there. And this is actually the second in the series, but it's my favorite, and you don't... The first book doesn't even have any of none of the characters. One of the characters repeats.
Wow.
But the main character does not in this particular one.
And I would say this whole series by Susan Cooper is definitely a classic. It's been around for a long time, so a good staple.
And the reason I grabbed this one rather than the first one is because the series is actually called The Dark is Rising.
And
so I grabbed that one.
Reason why.
So
All right,
people will remember that.
Quickly a couple ones.
Okay.
And
I want to do The Lions of Little Rock. Now, this is some historical fiction. Really, really good. It's about the 1960s, right after, when things were starting to get really hot down in the South. It's set in Little Rock. And it is about a girl who has selective mutism, so she only talks to people who are in her family. But then she meets a new girl at school who she somehow gets the courage to start to talk to her. And so they become friends. However, one day she goes missing, and it's because her new friend was African American, and she was passing as white to get a better education. And so when people found out about that, they didn't like it very much. So they have to decide, how can we still be friends, and what can we do?
It's a really nice taste, and that's what historical fiction does. Gives us a nice taste of the social issues, plus a little bit of history. Very well done as far as research-wise, and in also dealing with those middle school type of issues too, of friendship and how you can be true to who you are.
Yep. So that one's probably for older kids too, but I thought I would pull out a graphic novel.
Another graphic novel.
And this one is hilarious. It is Rutabaga, the Adventure Chef. So it's about this chef, this kid chef, who is traveling all around with his magic cooking pot and picking up rare recipes and having adventures. And he's really a good, and he does have lots and lots of adventures. So it's a good mix of humor and adventure and just general silliness.
Kind of on the other side of the spectrum of all of our series ones.
Yes.
So and that seems to be the case with all of our age group this way. Is either death and dying and moms and dads are being gone and into this let's have fun with food.
Yeah.
And rutabagas of all sources.
Yes.
What else do we have?
I do want to talk about one nonfiction, and then, so this is The Land of Stories, but it's a treasury of classic fairy tales. So right now we have The Land of Stories. It's a series by Chris Colfer of Glee, and it's really well written, really good, and it's about some kids who go to the land of stories, like the land where fairy tales are. Super popular. So if you have a kid who is into those books right now, you might want to pick this up because it is a treasury of all those great fairy tales. Oh. And so they're not the Disney versions either. So some kids maybe haven't ever been exposed to like Hans Christian Andersen's version of The Little Mermaid, where the Little Mermaid doesn't get the prince at the end. Sorry, spoilers. But so that's in there. So it's just it's a really well done, he rewrote them really well. It's just a well done collection. But so if the kids are into the Land of Stories, they might like it. But even if not, if you're thinking, oh, I would love to share some fairy tales, this would be a good one.
I'm going to open this one up just because the cover is really awesome, and you can see that the filigree is all right in there as well. Mm-hmm. And they start out with the Once Upon a Time. We still have illustrations and lots of white space and a good read aloud. Would you suggest as well?
So, yeah.
And a nice classical book to have in every library.
This is a great gift book. Like if you can see, it's got it's fancy, and it's one of those things that would be nice to give as a birthday gift or something like that.
The Land of Stories, a very great book. The fairy tales are always a really wonderful story to share and have fun with your family as well. So let's go to our picture books.
Oh, excellent.
And I know you have a favorite one here. That's why it's on top.
So this is One Day in the Eucalyptus Tree, and this is so fun. It is a wonderful read aloud about a very clever boy who is, in the first couple pages, swallowed by a snake.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Again, one of those where things are awful.
So he's swallowed by this snake, but as you keep going through the book in this one really great read aloud rhyme, it's good rhythm and just fun to read. He is very clever, and you can just tell he is trying to trick this snake. He has a plan, but you don't know what it is, and it's a fun plan to read about. You're going to like it. I read it. It was one of my 3-year-old's favorites so far this year.
And what I heard is that you had to read it over and over and over, which is a good sign that it's a very good book. Sometimes it's hard for parents or caregivers to do that. But
I agree with one of my friends who read it. It was one that she had to read over and over and over again, but she didn't mind.
So there you hear it right here.
It's one you can read multiple times, and it's still good.
And who can't? The illustrations are just fabulous too.
Brendan Wenzel, and I guarantee we're going to keep hearing more from this illustrator. He is wonderful.
book for you to give, and just a recent book too.
Yes, this is a brand new.
You'll see this on our Best Book Show that will happen in January of 2017.
Oh man, really?
And let's do one more picture book, and I know you have a couple board books here too.
So this is brand new. It came out on October 18th. It's If You Give a Mouse a Brownie. Just if you've got some fans of the If You Give a Mouse a Cookie books, this might be a really fun one to get for a present, because it's always fun to visit our old favorite characters.
Yeah, Laura Numeroff doesn't lose here either. She just repeats her wonderful stories of, if this happens, this is going to happen, teaching our children and teaching us as adults too that, there are things that happen and reasons why they happen. And I have to plug our little theater. Our little theater this month is all about if you give a dog a donut. I have to remember which one it is. So a dog a donut. So we're featuring Laura Numeroff in our little theater. So come in and check that out, and check out our brand new book that is hot off the press.
I'll be putting that one out right after this.
Right, and it'll go on our new bookshelf that we have for our picture books. Now you have a couple, we can't forget our little ones, our infants and toddlers. Let's talk about them together, because I think they're both a very good pair of happiness, and that's what I like in stories too, is that happiness.
So they just, so one is You Are My Sunshine, and it just goes through the classic song. Just really fun. I grabbed it because I sing it to my kids, and I know I'm not the only one, so that might be a fun book.
Yeah, singing a book is a very good thing to help your child become a good reader and loving reading. So good job.
Oh, thank you. And then the other one is My Heart Fills with Happiness, and that's by Monique Gray and illustrated by Julie Flett. And this is just a beautiful book, but as you go through it, you realize, and the two authors are from Canada, and they're First Nations people, and that's what Canadians call Native Americans here. They're First Nations in Canada. And so it's some good diversity. All the children are First Nations children, which is nice. It's opening a window for a lot of kids into another world. And then, or, it might be holding up a mirror to those Native Americans. And it's important for children to get both a mirror and a window in their reading.
Very good way of saying that. I know there's a plan out there, or a thought process out there that we need diverse books, and we do need diverse books, because we do need that window and that mirror looking and seeing the world around us as well as ourselves.
Yeah. So gifts are a great way to do that. You
very
can
much so.
Open up a new world for your children.
Very much so. And so any of these books would be fantastic, and hopefully, this is one of our favorite books here at the Youth Services Department, books. And it's a whole story of, these animals wanting to go into the library to get a books. And they're all happy when they do get to check one out, except for the little the little frog, who says when he gets his book, I read it. Until next time, buy a book for your friend, buy a book for your grandchild, for your children, and give them the gift that keeps on giving. Until next time, keep on reading.